Okay, I think we can start. Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Thompson, and I am the manager of data services at the RTA. Welcome to today's Transportation Tuesday event titled Accessing Transportation Data in the Chicagoland Region, Cmap Data Hub and the RTA's Rtans website. This is the fourth and final presentation of the Transportation Tuesday series. Before we start, I just want to mention a couple of quick things. We are asking everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. Please include your name, organization, and preferred pronouns in the Zoom label. This can be accomplished by hovering over your name, clicking the three dots, and selecting Rename. Today's presentation is about website applications that provide open data within the Chicagoland area. Starting off, we'll have Szmurlo, Senior Analyst at the RTA, who will talk about the RTA's Rtans website. Next, we'll have Hersh Singh, Principal Analyst at the RTA, who will discuss the RTA's new Mapping and Gis Portal. Finally, we'll have Alexis McAdams, Associate Analyst with the Research and Innovation Group at Cmap, who will present the Cmap's Data Hub. If you have any questions during the event, please feel free to add them in the chat. However, we have time set aside at the end for a Q&A session. Each person will have approximately 20 minutes to present their topic. Each presenter is looking forward to showing you, the attendees, how these platforms provide various forms of data in a transparent and accessible way. Without further ado, let's begin today's Transportation Tuesday event. I'll start off by providing a brief overview of Rtans. Rtans stands for the Regional Transportation Authority's Mapping and Statistics website. It's Chicagoland's data warehouse of transit-related information. Rtans has been around for over 20 years, and examples of information on the site include a digital document library, ridership for all three service boards by mode, detailed information for all rail stations, rail lines, and bus routes, RTA's planning study efforts, the RTA Capital Program, a mandated data transparency portal, a data catalog for downloading information, as well as other mapping and analytic tools. Now I will hand off to Szmurlo to start off showing you Rtans.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Szmurlo. I'm an analyst at the RTA. Today I'll be showing you several content areas on the Rtans website. As Brad stated in his introduction, Rtans has existed in various iterations for the past 20 years. Throughout that time, the website has provided transit data to users throughout the Chicagoland region in a transparent, interactive, and accessible fashion. I'm going to start my presentation today with one of the most visited content areas of the website, Ridership Statistics. Before I begin, I want to note that Rtans is primarily managed by RTA staff, but employees at the three service boards, CTA, Metra, and PACE, are frequent and important collaborators. This section, the Ridership Statistics section, is just one example of that collaboration. On a regular basis, RTA staff receives ridership data from the three service boards. We then present these figures in an accessible and interactive fashion on the website. So when you go to the Ridership Statistics content area, you go to the landing page, and there you will see that there's three sections divided by the service boards. Now, if someone wanted to, for example, find information about PACE's bus routes, they can go to this link right here, bus ridership by route, and it shows ridership data for all of PACE's routes for the last 10 years. It's important to note that this graph is interactive. So you can click, a different year and sort by that year. Right now, we're showing the latest month of data, which is April 2022. If you want to see, for example, January data, you can go to this filter tool here, and it'll filter to show January data for the last 10 years. Similarly, we also showed have a data type filter. So if you want to see Sunday data, you pull down this menu and it will automatically change. Also, if you're looking for a specific route, let's say you're looking for PACE's 208 Gulf route, you can type that in and it shows up. You can also just put 208 and it'll also show up. When that pops up in your table, you can click on it, and a separate standalone profile page exists for that route. We have these profile pages for all existing routes that are running in the system. So on that page, as you can see, you have some basic information, a link to the schedule for that route on Pace's website, a map showing the extent of the route, as well as some ridership statistics shown in an interactive graph. Once again, it's showing the latest month of data that we have, which is April. But if you want to change it to, let's say, once again to January, you can do that. It's going to take a few seconds to load, but once it loads, you can see that the graph changed. And once again, we're showing that data by date type, so weekday, Saturday, and Sunday holiday. If you just want to see one of these, you can just click on it. So, for example, showing here, and only that one that you choose, weekday, is shown on the graph. This is also similarly shown for the other service boards. So I'm going to proceed to show you statistic data for Metra. Click on the rail ridership by line. Once again, just like the pace table, you see all of Metra's lines in the system. It's showing you April 2022 data because that's the latest month of data that we have. You can click on one of the lines. We'll click on BNSF. You're taken to also profile page. Give it a second to load. Here you see, once again, you got links to Metra's respective pages for that line, a map showing the extent, a carousel of the stations on that line with photos of those stations, and then an interactive graph showing ridership data for that specific line. So as you can see, unfortunately, due to COVID, ridership statistics has plummeted. You can see that on the graph, and you can see the actual figures from 2019 to 2020. Let's jump to February. That graph should show that February 2020 was just before the pandemic, so it should still be right there. Yep, on trend. So that's the ridership statistics content page on the Rtms website. The next content area I'm going to go to is a transit projects and studies page. Here we will see information regarding the RTA's capital program as well as its planning programs. So if a user wants to see information about projects, say for example, the RTA's community planning program, which does TOD projects and zoning code updates, they can go to this section and it'll populate a interactive table on the page. Let's say you were only interested in projects in a specific year from the community planning program. You can go to this year tool. Give me one second. Let's pick a random year, 2015. Click the apply, search, and filter button, and it'll give you a list of all those projects from the community planning program that happened in 2015. You get a basic information, but if you want more information about a specific project, let's look at the Highwood TOD zoning update. You can click this button and more information will show. Here you can see you have a brief description of that project, current activities, a breakdown of funding for that project, as well as related projects. So as you can see, the actual report from that effort is linked here. You click on it, and a PDF will load from our digital document library. We'll give it a few minutes or seconds. But yep, here's that document, and anybody can access this and see what was stated in that project. Moving forward, another powerful tool on Rtms is the jurisdiction content area. This provides a breakdown of what transit assets, capital projects, and planning projects have happened or are currently happened in a specific location. So let's say a user wants to figure out what has happened or what's going on in the city of Chicago. They can go to the municipality filter right here, click Chicago, click the apply search and filters button, and this breakdown will show up. As you can see, there have been 84 projects either that are currently happening or have been completed in the city of Chicago. These are specifically planning projects like that community planning program that I mentioned earlier. There have been or currently are 254 capital projects. And then here's a breakdown of all the stations, bus routes that run through the city of Chicago. Now to get greater detail, you click on this plus button and you can see this information is divided further into transit services and related projects. Click on here, you can see all the bus routes, all the CTA stations, Metra stations, and Pace bus routes that run through the city of Chicago. So let's say, and these are all linked to those profile pages that I mentioned earlier. So for example, you click here and it'll take you once again to one of the profile pages for a CTA bus route. And you can get more information, including map and ridership graphs on that profile page. Similar information is shown in the related project section. So here in the first top section, we have all those planning projects that have occurred or are currently occurring in the city of Chicago. Same thing with capital projects. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these capital projects that is currently happening in the city of Chicago. That's the Green and Pink Line West Track Improvement Projects. You click it from that jurisdiction result, it'll take you to a specific standalone profile page for that project. You get some information at the top about the capital projects, as well as a map showing where in the region that project is occurring. Now, the final content area that I'll touch upon today is the search and download data section. It's important to note that most, if not all, of the information on Rtms is available for download. All of these resources are housed in this content area, search and download area. So remember, we were talking about Pace bus route data. Well, you can go through the list and you can see here that there is a content area or a data set called Pace bus ridership. You click on here, you get a preview of that information that was shown earlier. And you can download that data by clicking this button, and a CSV of all this information will show up in your download folder. Give it a few minutes and I'll show this what's shown in the CSV. And this is just one example how users have direct access to data on Rtms, and they can use it as they wish, manipulate it, make their own analyses, etc., etc. Similarly, like I was talking about our community planning program, a data set exists for that program as well. So if you go to the last page, there's the RTA programs and projects data set, and there you can see that community planning program that I was talking about has its own downloadable data set. And you can search that data. Remember, we were talking about Highwood, and there we go. There's that TOD zoning update. And once again, if people want to look at this data further or do their own research on it, they can download it and it'll show up in their downloadable data set or downloadable folder. These are just some of the major content areas on Rtms. There's a few more, but we are more than happy if you explore this on your own. Moving forward, the next part of our presentation is going to touch upon a new content area that we recently added on Rtms, and that's the Mapping and GIS Portal. My colleague Hersh Singh will talk about that.
Thanks, Chris. Share my screen here. All right, everybody see my screen? Great, thank you. As Chris mentioned, one of the ways the RTA is improving transparency and accessibility is through the RTA's new Mapping and GIS Portal. Before we dive in, I'd like to give just a quick background on how the portal came to be. So the portal is based in ArcGIS Online. And for those that don't know, ArcGIS Online is a cloud-based mapping and analytical tool utilized to make maps, applications, analyze data, and to share and collaborate. Some of the maps that we have on ArcGIS Online were actually built using desktop software and then moved over to ArcGIS Online. But in many cases, we've just used ArcGIS Online for the entire workflow. Over the past 10 years, GIS users and GIS content at the RTA has more than doubled. Previously, like I said, most of this was done strictly using ArcMap and creating hard copy maps in the form of PDFs for various reports. But now that's basically transitioned fully to mostly web-based maps and mapping applications using ArcGIS Online. Because we had so much content that we were authoring and we thought would be a valuable resource for the general public, we decided to create this one centralized location. So we launched the RTA Mapping and GIS Portal in January of this year. And again, the main purpose of creating this was to create a centralized location to manage and showcase all of the GIS content, not only for us internally at the RTA, but also for the general public. So the portal is divided into content areas by topic. So the first map we have up here is the Rtms Made Map. And this map is a great resource for any Rtms user as kind of like a resource tool to explore various layers. So it has layers based on all the content areas on Rtms, and you can explore those layers by going over here to the layer list. And you can see we have PACE facilities, we have various political jurisdictions, and as the user scrolls in, more map services are actually rendered. So if you're curious about where a specific bus route is, or you just want a good reference tool that's interactive to supplement the system maps that we publish, this is a great spot for all of that. And again, you can turn on various layers here for more information. Say you want to turn on a municipal boundary, you can do that and it will render right on top of that. So this map looks very similar to the system maps that we published, and that was intentional. We wanted to create a consistent product so that people that are using our maps, whether it be hard copy or interactive, will have a resource tool that they're familiar with. So some of the apps that we created that are specific to various programs and projects that are highlighted on Rtms are these Rtans Apps. And what these are called are instant apps or Rtans Apps. And what they allow you to do is get quick answers to questions or reference various programs that the RTA is administering. So for example, we can highlight the interagency signage app here. And what this app shows is all of the various locations throughout the region that the RTA is administering the interagency signage program. So if we scroll in here, you can click on any of the point locations. And for example, we'll choose Elgin. Sorry. And you can see that the point location is Elgin, the number of signs is 25. You can actually go over to another document that details what's happening at that specific location in more detail. And what this is opening up is a supplementary story map that actually shows the specific sign locations and faces in more detail. So this is a great tool for the RTA to show kind of where we're actually putting our signs throughout the region and just basically the current status of how the interagency signage program is operating. So that's just a basic mapping application. Another tool that we also have are story maps, and we utilize these a lot to basically give a little bit more commentary and a little bit more detail on what's happening. So the interagency signage group at the RTA created this great story map that basically talks about the whole program from its inception, from the pilot areas to its current status. So you can go through this, and it has pictures and then text kind of describing, from the program start to where we are now. Has the same similar map here embedded within the content area. It talks about the locations, pictures, and zooms you in with various aerial images. And it's a great tool. It's a great way for us to kind of show the general public and any stakeholders kind of what we're doing in their area. So I think one of the areas that we're most excited about and that we've launched within the past probably year and a half has been these dashboards. Many of you are probably familiar with the RTA's COVID dashboard, and this has been an invaluable tool for us to basically disseminate information on the status of transit throughout the pandemic. So primarily what we're showing is two different metrics. One is basically the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on transit ridership, as you can see through these ridership charts here, and then also its implications on our sales tax and fare revenue. So we have charts here. So I think the most illustrative chart here is this ridership status chart. And as you can see, we're showing ridership, the percent change in weekly ridership from the first week of March 2020. So we chose that week because that was the week that was right before the pandemic hit. So it exemplifies basically pre-pandemic conditions. And as you can see from that week on moving forward, we had a big dip, and then we kind of see some, dips and valleys throughout the various variants and holiday seasons and so on and so forth. But as you can see, ridership is generally trending back upwards. And similar to the graphs that Chris showed you, or the charts rather, on Rtms, these are also interactive. So you can turn off some of the service boards and only view what you want, and that's pretty cool. So if we go back here, another valuable tool with this is that you can actually download these data sets as well. So not only can you just go here and get a quick answer on ridership for a given week, you can actually go to Rtms and download the data sets that are powering this dashboard. So oftentimes we get questions about impacts of ridership for a given week, and now it's nice because we can just basically send people to the dashboard, and then similar to how Chris showed you, you can download the CSV or you can preview the data and get quick answers and put it in to your own shapefiles and do your own type of analysis. One of the newer dashboards that we deployed has been the finance dashboard, which is very cool. It's a great way for us to disseminate to the public basically how we're performing on various financial metrics. And this is stuff that gets reported to our board monthly, but now we have a centralized location where it's always accessible. It's not just in a PowerPoint or in a PDF, and the general public also has access to this as well. One of the cool tools with this is that you can also switch. So right now what you're seeing is, for the system, you're seeing various financial metrics for the RTA system, but you can also view this specific to each of the service boards. So if you just click the selector tool up here, all the charts will update for the given service board that you're interested in. So that's really cool as well. We also link to some additional commentary here. That's an executive summary based on the findings for each month. So that's a great reference tool as well. Also, the last dashboard that we have up here is the Strategic Performance Measures dashboard. This was also data that was presented to the board in a little bit of a different format, but it's great that we have it up here. We update it monthly as data comes in through the service boards and through NTD. So this is another great tool. And again, similar to the other dashboard, you can go here and scroll through the various service boards and have it update based on the service board and or mode. So this has been, again, another really cool tool to basically disseminate information. So as we move on to the strategic planning group, so our strategic planning group does a lot of great analytical work that powers some of the initiatives that the RTA carries through. One of the ones is our mobility pilots that we launched that basically addressed first and last mile problems throughout the region. This story map that was created by Peter Kirsten gives a nice quick overview of where those pilots are, what the results were, and the pilot terms and so on and so forth. So it's another great way of showing what we're doing throughout the region in a more interactive format than something like just a tabular table or report, hard copy report. One of the story maps that I think we're most proud of was this critical transit need area analysis that we did. So we created a analytical exercise to basically address some federal relief funding that we were receiving. And it was a very detailed analysis that we did utilizing a lot of maps, a lot of various analytical tools, and it was somewhat hard to explain that to a general public or a stakeholder within the transit industry. And so we created this story map, and I think it does a great job at basically showing how we reached the conclusions that we did, and kind of walks people through the various maps that led to our ending analysis. And again, you have text that kind of describes the process, how we came up with these critical need areas, all the variables that went in to basically compute the final variable here. So we have, in this chart here, or sorry, this map here, we have workers without a vehicle, wage below poverty line, we have equity considerations, so on and so forth. So again, it's just a great way for us to show kind of our work and then bring people up to speed on exactly what we're doing. So our community planning group has been creating story maps since we kind of launched ArcGIS Online at the RTA, and they ran with this with great success, and they've utilized it as a tool to basically inform their stakeholders i.e. municipalities, what they're doing in their neck of the woods, essentially. So as you can see, there's story maps here for various parts of the region. You have Mundelein, Gulf Road Corridor, Orland Park, Elmhurst. One of the more recent story maps that they created was basically a story map talking about the 2021 implementation that they were completing, their implementation report. So this story map is basically a summary of all the project awards and recent activities related to the community planning program and their access to transit program. So it's all summarized within this report here, laid out very nicely, has a lot of information, links to various other downloadable reports for supplemental information, has embedded maps that shows where these are occurring throughout the region. So really cool stuff. I encourage everybody to check it out, and I think it'll give other agencies ideas and just good information to base some other activities on. So because our community planning group does great work, and I think again the story maps, and specifically this one, does a great job at kind of telling that story. One of the portions of this portal that I'm most excited about is the ability to download shapefiles. So this was something that even when I was in grad school 15 years ago that I found to be generally a bit cumbersome, was just, where do I go to just download rail lines? So I need CTA bus routes because I need to create a map for a report or whatever it may be. There was various places that you could get information, but whether you were sure if it was up to date was always kind of questionable. And so what we decided to do is actually just offer these layers up for the general public to use here. We're all for the idea of sharing data and information because it can only garner more innovation and better ideas. So we're all about that here at the RTA. So users have two different options here. Is one, you can actually, for desktop ArcMap and ArcPro users, you can actually go and just download the shapefile, and that'll open up a zip file, and then you can go and add it to your desktop applications. For those users who don't have desktop software and just want to play with the data, you can actually click these what are called feature layers, and what this will do will open up a map within ArcGIS Online that allows you to just map the data straight away. You don't have to download anything. It basically plots it on a base map for you, and now you have CTA bus routes here plotted on a map, which is great. And another thing that's great that I like about ArcGIS Online is the ability to just browse for layers and look at other stuff that's out there. For example, if we were interested in looking at population data for this year, let's see what we have here. We can add, add a data set from Esri that talks about percent of population for dependent age groups, and all you have to do then is just, drag your routes on top, and now you created a map, with census data. So it's as easy as that. And ArcGIS Online, you can browse for all different kinds of layers throughout their Living Atlas report or just their general ArcGIS Online. So, I'm not even sure if this one's going to work. Let's see if we can add storms here and remove this one. Yeah, that one didn't draw, but I think you get the idea. It's really easy to create mashups with various map layers. And if you have your own content on ArcGIS Online, you can quickly create maps, no problem. So that's pretty cool. And again, you can do that for CTA bus routes, CTA rail lines, Metra rail lines, Metra rail stations, and PACE bus routes. So since we're talking maps and GIS, we thought this would also be a good place to house links to our regional and downtown maps. So people have probably seen these map products, are familiar with them. They've seen them in mapping kiosks throughout Chicago. Here, you can actually come here and either view the maps, or you can download them here as PDFs as well. So it's another place that you can just get access to data, which is kind of nice. Similar to that, we have sub-regional maps, which kind of go into divide the region into subregions and have a little bit more information. So if you wanted to look at, say, just northern Cook County, you can come here and then get information, a nice system map here rendered with all the routes and stations, and also some reference information here. So also for all the people that are into developing and online map creation, we also have links to GTFS data. I know all these links are kind of out there throughout the various service boards on their websites, but we thought it would be helpful to create kind of one location where you can get at all that data. So for those that don't know, GTFS stands for the General Transit Feed Specification. And it was originally created by Google to basically create real-time transit information through their Google Map product. So each of the service boards publish this data that allows you to map and kind of model transit routes. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. For the sake, for us, we often use them to digitize routes so to make sure we have the most recent. You can also run it through various network analyst scenarios and do a lot of cool analyses with that as well. So lastly, we also have the RTA is responsible for the stops model, the regional stops model. And we've actually led an effort to create a consistent set of inputs for the entire RTA region that helps you basically that helps you analyze the impacts of various projects throughout the region. Stops is an FTA project, but what we have here is a link to our calibrated base set for the region. So for those of you that are interested in running kind of project scenarios and seeing the impacts of ridership, this would be the place that you would go to view all that. So that's all for the RTA mapping and GIS portal. So now I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Alexis McAdams to show you Cmap's Data Hub.
Thanks, Hersh. Just one moment while I share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen okay? Excellent, thanks. All right, so hello everyone, my name is Alexis McAdams and I'm an associate analyst with Cmap, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. I just wanted to say thanks for the invitation to come to the Transportation Tuesdays webinar series and show you around some of our data resources. So first, I would like to start off with a quick credit and kudos to the staff at Cmap. Managing data updates and responding to data requests is a tough and resource intensive job, and we can't do it without all of the help of our dedicated staff. So thank you. So Cmap is the metropolitan planning organization for 7 counties in northeastern Illinois. We cover some transportation projects, but also a lot more than that. So this presentation is going to be divided into 2 parts. First, I'll walk through some of the resources available on our homepage, and then I'll pivot over to our data hub, which contains a lot of the same data, but in a slightly different format that will be of interest to you and your users. So first, here's just a quick look at our homepage. When you Google Cmap, this is what you'll see when you hit the first link. Much of our public-facing summarized information can be found here, whereas the Data Hub tends to contain a lot more methodology documents, full data sets, tables, and completed reports. But when we look at our homepage here, we have events on the side, and that includes information about our board and committee meetings. Please keep an eye on this area if you'd like to participate or view our meetings, as well as some of our more recent updates here in the center of the page, and additional blog post updates down here. So first, I'll begin by talking about our On to 2050 comprehensive plan effort. The resources and materials developed by the agency for this plan were adopted in 2018, and efforts are currently underway to update the plan and some of the data indicators, and these updates are in review and will hopefully be rolled out to our online data resources this fall. So keep an eye on our homepage in this update section for more information about that. But looking at some of the items we have available here for the comprehensive plan, I just would like to point out that much, but not all of the agency's work is driven by and supports the principles outlined in the comprehensive planning effort. So if you're learning about Cmap or learning about regional planning, this is a great place to start. Using the keywords at the top is a great way to navigate. And as we move through the resources here, there's also chapters on the right-hand side. However, today for kind of our data-focused conversation, I'm going to skip right ahead to the resources tab here to highlight two of the most popular resources utilized as part of the comprehensive planning effort, and that is our indicators and our local strategy maps. So the indicators are a set of metrics that have been defined in order to see how we're meeting the goals defined in our regional plan. Scrolling down to the different sections of the planning process, a lot of transportation-oriented metrics will be down in the mobility section, but there are items of interest in the governance and environmental sections as well. So if you're looking for information about transportation-related indicators, this is a great place to start to learn about the indicators as we've defined them and how we're hoping to track them into the future. Let's see, I'll move back to the local strategy maps here section of the resources page of the On to 2050 comprehensive planning effort. And here we have some tools and simple in-browser web maps to view some of the areas of interest as part of the comprehensive planning report and their distribution across the region. So for each one of these, I'm going to scroll down to the mobility section. For each one of these, we do have a small basic interactive web map to take a look at what kind of concepts we're looking at here. There's some very basic functionality of turning layers on and off, as well as zooming around. But each one of these maps does contain links to the different report chapters that provide additional context for these areas, as well as their importance to the general planning effort. Let's see. So heading back to the main homepage for the Cmap website. Oh, sorry, there's a bit of a preview there for you. But heading back to the main homepage of the Cmap website, I wanted to move next to the second best place to start for looking for some of our data, and that is here in the data tab on the homepage. This section provides general information about some of our major projects and some of our more popular projects, as well as some brief analyses. So like I mentioned before, the main website is really centered on providing some general analyses for the public on what our projects are and what we're doing, versus the Data Hub, which hosts a lot of the geospatial data layers and tables, which I'll be getting to shortly. So I'm going to highlight just a couple of our more popular projects here on our data tab. The first one is the Community Data Snapshots. And this is a project to produce PDF summary reports that are updated annually that provide a wide range of data for municipalities, Chicago community areas, and counties in Northeastern Illinois. Some of the data includes demographic data, housing, transportation, land use, and others. So here we have a quick overview of the kind of data that's contained, note on some of the sources, an interactive map for locating which kind of, or which area you're interested in. So you can just scroll around, say, maybe let's look at a community on the far north side of Chicago. And we can look and see that this area, we can take a look at the community data snapshot for Rogers Park. We can take a look at Cook County as a whole, or the city of Chicago. So I'm just going to click to view the Rogers Park one. And here's a PDF report that is, according to feedback from our partners, pretty highly valued in that it contains a lot of good information that's localized and easy to access. So just looking through some of the data here in the table on the, or the table of contents on the left, population households, we include comparisons to other geographies, including city and region. There's also information about housing data. Of interest to this group, I think, will be data related to transportation. That includes some tables are sourced from the Census Bureau, while others come from other sources. And each one of these tables does include information about the source at the bottom here. Some other items include employment, land use, as well as some analyses of how the area in question is changing over time. So I do encourage you to take a look at the Community Data Snapshots page, scroll around to find some areas you're interested in, and download some PDF copies to find some information. I will also add that the newest edition of the Community Data Snapshot will be rolled out later this month, including updated data for some of the census and land use tables. So do look out for an update concerning that coming up soon. So returning to the data tab, I'd like to also point out some of our land use characteristic data that is of interest to our partners and folks in transportation. I hope you'll find this interesting too. We do maintain a land use inventory for the Northeastern Illinois region. This page does include a basic web viewer to preview what the land use inventory looks like. And this is really valuable if you're looking at analyses related to housing, commercial development, footprint of transportation assets, as well as change over time. So while just the 2015 land use inventory is previewed here, we do have earlier versions of the land use inventory available for you to download and take a look at. So just looking at this basic web viewer here, we do have a about page that includes a key to the different land use types. And so you can scroll around and take a look and see what kind of things you're interested in. But the shape files for the land use inventory are available on the Data Hub, which I'll be getting to shortly. But before we get to the Data Hub, I have just one more standalone data access tool that I'd like to highlight, and that is the Air Photo Archive. So Cmap is constructed from, or our heritage involves other transportation agencies and transportation and planning related agencies, excuse me, that had an archive of air photos and aerials from the region. And we recently put together a Imagery Explorer site to explore these aerial images and have them available for download. So it does open up a link in a new tab. And there are instructions on the right for how to access, but it is fairly intuitive in that we'll have a map pop up in the center. You can scroll around to an area you're interested in. So for example, I'm going to take a look at O'Hare. As we zoom in, we do see the aerial shapes in purple here begin to appear. So we'll start to see the shape of what the image will look like. Up here, we have tabs for the different time periods. So let's go back to 1970. Wait for the map to update. And then you can just click on the area of interest, and the aerial layer will be highlighted over here on the left. Click the thumbnail to get a preview of the image to download, and then the download button will begin a download of a zip file containing the full-size image. Let's see, one thing I like to do is to toggle on the modern day imagery, just to have on this side to compare to what some of the, oh, wrong township, here we go. But to have the modern day imagery on the base map, to have something to compare to for this older imagery. It's pretty interesting to see for development patterns and changes in land use across the region. So finally, I'm going to turn to the Cmap Data Hub. Returning to our home page here, the quickest way to reach the Data Hub is the Data tab, and it will be our top link in this short little paragraph up here at the top. And here we are arriving at the Data Hub. So much of the raw data, formatted table data, methodology documentation, and completed reports for projects can be found here. You can use the tabs at the top to browse by category. I'm going to begin with data sets, but there are also filters on the left that further organize the data by category. So I mentioned that Cmap hails from previous agencies, and that would be CATS and NIPSI. We do have a lot of the archival material and previous reports produced by those two agencies available here and separated out into this archive area. Otherwise, we do have a lot of data that Cmap ourselves have produced since our incorporation. So earlier I highlighted some local strategy maps involving freight data for the ONTA 2050 comprehensive planning process. We do have a group that puts together the ONTA 2050 data. And I can scroll down here to show you just where the shape files for some of that freight data from the map that I showed you earlier can be downloaded, as well as the methodology documentation for how we produce those available here for download. So we try to cluster together some of the documentation of how we produced the product with our shape files of what we produced. And in some cases, for some of our projects here, we also include summary reports and analyses as well. So if you want to take a look, you can either click the name of the item you'd like to download or hit more information. We do include some metadata here about when items were uploaded, last updated. Sometimes you may see uploaded by, so that will give you contact information if you're looking for, like if you have follow-up questions and you want to ask the person who produced or uploaded that data set, that information may be found here. Otherwise, this link at the top will begin the download for looking at the item that you've selected. In this example here, the methodology for the freight land use clusters local strategy map. The Data Hub also does have a search function, so if you're looking for something in particular, you can just pop it into the search bar. Earlier, I mentioned the community data snapshots that are primarily a PDF project, but we do have the data available in full table format. So if you want to take a look at some of that summarized data across municipalities or across community or Chicago community areas, you can find them all here. And again, we do include things like field descriptions, some notes on methodology. And for this particular item, you'll also see archived versions. So tables for some of the previous community data snapshots using older census data or other data sources. I'd just like to highlight a couple more data sets here that I think are going to be of interest to this audience before then we turn it over for questions. So first, I would just like to point out that here on the Data Hub, we do have travel survey data available. So Cmap has undergone efforts to survey the travel habits of folks moving through and within the region. The most recent travel survey was completed in 2019, and it's called the My Daily Travel Survey. And you can click here to find information about how to use the data, final reporting of the results, as well as CSV of the survey results themselves, though we do have notes that some information was removed to protect privacy of some of the respondents. So if you're interested in travel survey data, either from our most recent survey here or some previous surveys in 2008 and 1990, we do have them available here for you to take a look. And the last data set that I'm excited to highlight here today is the bikeway inventory system, or the BIS. So this includes information on both existing and planned bicycle infrastructure in communities across the region. We do have a link here for the manual, a list of the different plans that are included, as well as a link to the geodatabase for you to open up in your own desktop-based GIS systems, ArcMap, ArcPro, QGIS, and take a look at not only infrastructure that has been built out, but also plans for infrastructure that may be built in the future or ones that were left on the drawing board. So do take a look at this system and let us know what you think. We'd be interested to hear. Finally, I just want to point out the About tab here does include a little link here to contact us, to email us. If there's resources you're looking for that you don't see on the Data Hub or you're a little confused on how to download, please don't hesitate to reach out. Particularly if you have like technical questions, this is also a great way to get connected to the right person in Cmap who can help answer your questions. If it's not really available in our Data Hub, I'm sure we can find someone to help you or just point you in the right direction for the data set that you're looking for. So one note on the Data Hub, we do have plans underway in the near future to be optimizing this system for access, particularly for GIS shapefiles. So I was very excited to see what the RTA team is doing in terms of connecting with Esri ArcGIS online in order to make those data files more accessible. And we're moving towards designing a system ourselves to kind of do some of that same kind of accessibility and analysis in browser with some of the data sets that we make available. So do look out for updates and changes in that arena. But in the meantime, please take a look at our Data Hub and let us know if you need help finding the data sets that we're looking for. So that concludes my section. I think I'll turn it over to the presenters and we'll see if we have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexis. We do have a few questions that have come up. Looks like they were answered. However, I just want to confirm, what is the most recent imagery available for download? This is for Alexis.
Yes, thank you. So the most recent imagery we have for download on our Imagery, like for direct download, I believe is, I'm just opening it up to make sure. 1995 is what we have available, but contact us. We definitely have more up-to-date imagery to share.
Okay. Another question for Alexis was, how frequently are the community snapshots updated? Is that annual?
Yes, the community snapshot data is updated annually. Depending on some of the data sources that we're pulling from, though not every table is updated annually. So double check the source line at the bottom of every table to see like when that was produced.
Okay. I had another question that was, how does the RTA collaborate with service boards for data and Rtms? It's kind of like a snowball effect. Rtms started out, like 20 years ago, and it's basically been word of mouth. We have different, peers like the ridership people. We've been in a relationship with them at the service board since the beginning. And as Chris had mentioned, that is the most commonly frequented part of the site. So the service boards basically know if they have an update, send it to the RTA. The GIS group or peers know that, hey, if we have something new, something's changed, we've updated it, go send it to the RTA. Other things we might read in the newspaper that something has changed, and then we will reach out to that specific or particular service board and request that information. So nothing's really set or documented. It's we all work together and know that if something's been updated, to share it. I had another question of what's the difference? Why is there Rtms and why is there an RTA website? There's several reasons for that. Mostly the RTA website is for its transit users. Rtms is more for operational statistics and data about the actual services. Again, I had a question, how often are the shapefiles updated? That goes back to the previous question. If a service board makes a major change, they will send it to us automatically. However, if we see something has changed to a specific route or a handful of routes, then we will reach out and ask for those specific changes and update them on our own. And last question I received was, why do we actually share the data? That is an effort that the RTA and I think the whole region has been pushing towards, is being more transparent and have more data accessible in as many different ways as possible. So using the websites that we have and the technology through ESRI, ArcGIS Online gives us a platform to be able to share information like that and expect more and more information to become available. Let me go look through any other questions that may have come up.
Someone asked if there's any plans to make CTA and PACE ridership available by bus stop. That's actually a question we get a lot. Unfortunately, the agencies we collaborate with, CTA and PACE, don't give that data to us. However, if you really want that data, it's best to contact them directly.
Yeah, we have plans for the near future, or hopefully in the future, to provide that information, because that would really, you could do a lot of detailed analyses on where ridership's occurring, where it's decreasing, especially with COVID. Where is ridership coming back? Where is ridership not coming back? To be able to see ridership, through, see it spatially. Where's the top 10, top 20, top 50 bus stops in the region? That would be a very interesting to have an interactive map to show that. So that's always been in our plans to do. It's just when the data becomes available, you should expect it on Rtms when it is available.
Yeah, and it's been mentioned in our chat if you haven't seen it. Rtms, the RTA does send out an Rtms newsletter quarterly. Usually we talk about major updates. And I believe Alexis has stated that there's a Cmap one too. So please send.
Yeah, I saw your chat message. I wanted to piggyback on that. Our newsletter is more about projects and other updates around the agency and is a little more like bi-weekly rather than quarterly.
I just got a question here about where do we see Rtms in 5 years? I think with what ESRI provides with the ArcGIS Online with the different tools and the ability to configure, advanced tools to see data spatially, I see that in the next 5 years as being a priority for Rtms, as well as more detailed information, as people had mentioned earlier or just recently, about stop level information. Any other last minute questions? While we're here, we've got time.
I have a quick question for the Rtms team,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Please.
For setting up the like ArcGIS Online and access to GIS shapefiles, how difficult was it to kind of like put a system in place, and how difficult is it to like maintain for updated shapefiles and things?
I'll let Hersh answer that. He developed the entire GIS portal. So he's the one you want to ask that question to.
Yeah, it's really straightforward. It's literally drag and drop. So if you're familiar with the workflow for like Google Drive, it's literally, right click, overwrite, and everything. As long as your table schemas and everything is the same, updating files is extremely easy. And the same way, when I showed those dashboards, each panel is powered by a CSV file. So when we get a new month's worth of data in, I literally just go into the directory and right click and overwrite file, and the charts update on the fly. So I don't want to give that away, but it's it's quite, because we have 3 dashboards, a 4th one coming, and various mapping products. And the goal of when I set those things up was to make the update procedure as simple as possible.
And in terms of frequency, we have a kind of a reminder in our calendars to contact our collaborators at the 3 service boards quarterly, and to contact them. Hey, do you have any updates? Please share your latest shapefiles with us.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks.
Yeah, one more thing on that. Some of those files actually are either directly from the service boards, but in some cases are just directly digitized from the GTFS. So if you wanted to skip the step of emails, you could just remind yourself to just do GTFS to route, every pick, and then you'd be good to go. Or just coordinate with us and we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So.
Still got time for more questions. Well, I think everyone who attended this session has our names: Hersh, Alexis, Chris, myself, and Jessica. If you do have any questions that come up, you can reach out to each of us at the agency and feel free to ask us questions that you might have. You have any ideas that would make the website or websites better, feel free to send that too. We're always open for input from our users, and actually a lot of our changes to the website come from our users, so feel free to reach out to us.
Luckily, we're adding our contact info to the chat, so if anybody needs to get in touch with additional questions, it'd be in there. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah. There's no more questions. Thank you very much for attending. And we look forward to having everybody use these products. So please go forward and explore these great data platforms.
Yes, thank you all very much for attending. And thank you very much, Jessica, for the Transportation Tuesday series.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.